South Korea relied heavily on this. It is true that they did sort of embrace quickly these kind of location tracking measures. It is not clear how much it helped. It is actually, it could be argued that South Korea's case is exceptional for a number of ways, one of which, the largest spread, came from a very specific region because it was a religious community that was very tightly knit, and it was spreading through them. They were in a local region, and then you can look at that. There's also the distinction between Asian cultures, the in-group versus out-group importance. South Korea is a very unusual example of a South Korea is a very unusual example of a society in which an understanding of group operations and government operations, sort of authority, and a command structure is ingrained in the very structure of the state itself. For example, Samsung is something like 20% of the entire country's gross domestic product. So what you see when you look at like a Japan or a South Korea are countries that already have a culture of whenever someone gets a cold, they put a flu mask on. I lived in Japan, I saw this, right? And that's without a pandemic. They also remember the SARS pandemic, and they made preparations in response to it. So I would say actually what you saw was South Korea doing an across-the-board push to grasp at any capabilities that they had, applying them with the to the maximum extent that they could, and that this is crucial. The public listened to expert recommendations that were coming from health authorities. They made some voluntary took voluntary individual actions like mask wearing, hand sanitizing, things like that, that could limit the transmissibility and infectiousness of it. And what we see is that collective voluntary action can be very effective. And one of the crucial things here is that in a high information, advanced economy like a Japan, which unfortunately has political problems, so they've been downplaying the importance of this virus early on, and that's going to bite them later. But you look at, in these kind of examples, people really can flatten that curve in a way that's effective. Now, when we look at the counterexample that you have here of an authoritarian society of China, we go, well, what if South Korea took a Chinese example here? Would they have been more effective in halting the spread of the virus if they had just welded people into their homes, right? If they had chained people's doors, turned off the elevators, blocked the stairways, set up cameras outside the homes, said people can't leave without a special pass from the government. All of these things. It's not clear that that would have been more effective. And in fact, I think there's a very strong argument that it actually would have been worse. When you look at the example of China, we need to understand that given the Chinese Communist Party and their, shall we say, tenuous relationship with factual reporting, it is very possible that the response to the pandemic and the manner in which it was taken in China caused more harm than what would have happened in a South Korean style response. We have direct documented cases where they chained the doors to people's house, they wouldn't allow them to go home from the hospital, and they had dependents at home, children with disabilities and things like that, who literally starved to death in the absence of their caretakers. And when you think about this on the scale of the whole of a country, the human cost is tremendous. And that's to say nothing of economic harm and despair, people who turn to suicide and hopelessness, relationships that are lost, people who don't have access to foods, and simply quality of life. The costs of these responses can be tremendous. And it's not clear that the efficacy of the sacrifices that are being asked for or that are being forced upon us involuntarily are actually resulting in concrete benefits. Now, putting all that on the table, acknowledging that, is there a case where some surveillance can be useful? Obviously, yes. I mean, look, I signed up to work for the CIA and the NSA. Yeah, I think what people are presuming here, and this was the presumption of the question put to me before, is the idea that this is a choice between mass surveillance or just a completely uncontrolled spread of an infectious virus that can cause serious disease. And I don't think that's accurate. In fact, I know that's accurate. I know a little something about how surveillance works here. What we are being asked is to accept involuntary mass surveillance in a way that has never been done before at this scale in the context of a real crisis. They go, look, we're just going to do this. The data already exists at phone companies. We're going to apply it to sort of a new use case. We're going to take this surveillance infrastructure that exists, or rather we're going to take this communications infrastructure that was not designed for surveillance, or rather it's told to us that it would not be used or abused for surveillance, and we're going to use it for precisely that, but for a really good reason. Now, they say that this is necessary. They say that there is no alternative. They say that if you want to save lives, you have to do this. But that's not true. Again, the question here is between the involuntary surveillance of everyone that has been carrying a phone over, the last however many weeks or months or years that they want to look back to. Because remember, these records of your movements of your phone, at least by AT&T in the United States, are reported to go back to 2008. Everywhere your phone has traveled since 2008, they know. And then there's no laws regulating how long they can retain this information, in large part in the United States. Now, imagine an alternative. You go to the hospital. You are diagnosed with an infection. And the doctor goes, it would be really helpful for you to be able to voluntarily share the movements of your phone. You open the app that when the pandemic came out, you installed, because it's just one of these recommendations that the government puts out, that the CDC or whatever the infectious disease authority is in your region. And what it did is it just turned on Bluetooth that most people have on their phones anyway. And what it does is it listens for other phones that are running the same app, and it gives out what's called a pairwise identifier. This means it's not sending a universal broadcast that says, this is my name, this is my phone number, whatever. It literally makes up a name, like a fake name, like Bob or Alice, if your name is not Bob or Alice, and gives this to every phone that it passes. A different phone gets a different name. But we use cryptography. We use basically ways of proving your identity, such that when you go to the doctor and the doctor goes, you are confirmed to have an infection, you can upload your list of all these fake names that you were given. That again, your phone is constantly changing, so you never give the same fake name to another phone twice, so you can't be tracked by this. And then you upload it online. And it goes, oh man, everybody else who has this app installed downloads this list, which doesn't incriminate them because everybody gets the same sort of master list, that goes, I passed that phone that was an infected person, or I was sitting on the bus next to this person, or oh, when I was on the tram, I was, with that person, or I was stuck on a plane with that person. And all of this can be done in a voluntary, privacy-preserving way. Now, you might go, well, why would I share this information if it doesn't benefit me directly? So if the code of the application is open, anybody can see it. It's not malicious. It's not spying on people, because countries have done this before. Iran put out an app that they said was going to help you diagnose your family before they went to the hospital, and in reality it was ransacking your contact lists and all your data, your location information, and they started monitoring the whole country on this basis. But if, again, this is done in the proper, responsible way, anybody can see this. You know what it's doing. Cards are on the table. It's not a shady thing. And as privacy protecting, I absolutely would, because it does not harm me in any way. I can't be tracked on the basis of this in any granular way. They don't know that it's me, except the doctor who already knows that I was infected. What you do is you incentivize people who are infected to share their movements on a master list, or it's actually not even their movements, it's just a list of all the phones that they passed. And then the people who have those phones, when they go and download this master registry of basically all the phones that these infected people have passed, they would see, oh, I'm on the list, or they open their app in the morning, they say, I didn't pass anybody, so I'm not at risk.
Today.